Sandra Bullock divorced Jesse James after she and the world learned that he cheated on her. Jesse is now engaged to LA Inc. reality star Kat Von D. I just sat down and talked to her about Jesse. You'll see that in just a second. But first, I want to share some excerpts from Jesse's brand new book, American Outlaw, which is out tonight. He publicly addresses the breakup with Sandra Bullock. Let's start with the moment that he revealed his infidelities to Sandra Bullock. He says, "The shame and sadness that washed over me as Sandy began to cry was almost beyond measure. For a moment, I wanted to be dead." Boy, that's powerful stuff. According to Jesse, here is actually where it all went wrong. He says, "I was a kid from the streets and just didn't seem to have much in common with her friends. Some of my hardest moments were going to premieres and awards shows. I just wish she was a teacher or something." Now for my conversation with Kat. She has a new book of her own, The Tattoo Chronicles. I began by asking her about her history with Jesse James.
For a long time, we were friends, and and I never expected something to blossom from that. So it's actually been really great. I think that I'm the perfect girl for him, and vice versa. And it's, I don't know. I mean, I think obviously everybody kind of wants to talk about the big scandal and all that stuff, but I feel like that stuff probably happens a lot, and nobody really knows your walk, and I think that it's easy to judge and point fingers and stuff like that, but nobody really knows.
Does he think about it still? Does he feel guilt or shame, or does he have to work on some stuff in his own?
I think you'd have to ask him as far as that stuff goes. I think my perception of it is he's done a lot of work on himself, inside and before we started dating, so I think that's why we connected, it was wow, you've been through some stuff, and talk about losing a lot of things, and seeing what's really important in life. And there's a lot of vulnerability there. And he's a really intelligent, good person. So I think that's how we connected. But I don't know. I think if we live in our past so much, it's kind of pointless. I'm all about the present. So.
And how is the relationship with Jesse? Is it a good one?
Yeah, it's great.
Makes you happy?
Oh yeah. And I mean, it's always, it's every couple has their challenges. And I think when we first started dating, it wasn't something planned.
And I know how sweet and tender you are, but I also know you're kind of a no-nonsense person.
Yeah.
You don't tolerate the stuff. Do you worry that he's gonna have trouble with him, or
no, cheating or something? No, I remember the first time somebody asked me that, aren't you worried he's gonna do the same thing? And I'm thinking, why would I worry about that? That's like me saying, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I would say that sometimes I tell people, if you want to know how your relationship's going to end, that's for younger people. You guys, if for college-age kids, you look at how their last relationship ended, and that's how your relationship's likely to end.
Well,
but I think adults, let's face it.
I think that we're capable of learning, and I think with some situation like this, which happens all the time, but just not on such a huge platform, and it's just so amplified, you'd be a fool not to learn something, not to walk away from that situation and learn something.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think, Jesse's a pretty intelligent guy. So.
And I don't know if people know that. I mean, he's got a huge business. He's been very successful.
It's the same thing with the tattooer thing. You look at us I'm like a dumb tattoo chick that hangs out at railroad tracks, and he's a biker guy that's buff and has no brain. And it's no, it's not the case. I think the first time we actually spent time together, it was so cool. I was blown away just by his vocabulary alone. I mean, I sound like a dork, but it's wow, even I didn't imagine that, he was like that. So.
Yeah, I've heard that about him, that people don't understand that this guy is really a thinker and operates on a lot of levels. Do you want kids?
No children for me. The funny thing is, I've known since I was 7 years old that I was never going to have kids.
Why?
I don't know. I just always imagined myself as this worldly traveled gypsy lady. I don't know. It's funny. I love children and kids love me, but I've always, I don't know, I make a really good buddy,
But not a good mom.
Well, I don't think I make a bad mom. I just think it's not what I want, It's
for you.
Yeah, and I don't want to put my body through it and stuff. I mean, some people I think are born to be, they're just maternal and stuff. And for me, I'm very loving. I have a lot of love to give.
Well, yeah, I know that about you, and I'm so surprised to hear you say you don't want to be a mom.
I don't know. I think maybe it's a little bit of the little feminist in me or something,
Okay, it's a rebellion.
A little bit. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say that, but I'm really passionate about my career and what I'm doing, and
Got it.
I don't really want to end that right now. I think if when you're a parent, you have to give 100%.
Let's talk about your life in Mexico, because I have a feeling that was an important little period. It was only until you were 4 years of age, but I've had this feeling that it was something significant.
I remember talking to my brother about we came from nothing. In Mexico when we lived there, we did not have a fancy resort life. It was in the middle, small, very small town, and dirt floors, and I just think that I'm so grateful for that, because I think if we remember where we come from, it makes it a lot easier to not get lost in all of this stuff, And it's not just like being on TV or whatever, because I think this applies to everybody, you know, like in whatever level you're at. But for me, I feel like Mexico is a huge part of my life. I think it's a beautiful country. It has a lot of resources to be an awesome country, you know, if they got through some of their drama. But yeah, you know, I love it.
Would it be accurate to say that because you had the security and love of your family, that the trappings didn't matter?
Definitely. I mean, I think I always say if there's anything like good qualities about me, I always give that credit to my father and my mom too. I mean, I was blessed with like pretty solid parents and a good family unit, and you know, lots of love and stuff. So it's good. And I think my parents always taught all three of us, myself and my siblings, is just like to stay focused on what's important, you know, in life. And you know, I don't know, definitely money and success and all that stuff. That's not what it's all about.
So how did the tattoo business get going?
So then, much to my parents' dismay, I got into punk rock music, and then, you know, with that, I think just being always artistically inclined, I guess, like, I kind of started hanging out with the wrong crowd, and...
How old were you?
I was 14 when I did my first tattoo.
Which one? Where is it?
On myself? Well, the first tattoo, funny enough, is a J on my ankle for my first love named James.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Let's see it, come on.
I think it's up, yeah, right there. So
what's okay?
Little J, but it's so funny because when Jesse and I started dating, he was like, "Oh, that's very appropriate." I'm like, "Yeah, it's funny little circles we make, you know." But yeah, and then the first tattoo I actually did on somebody, it was at the same time, and then I got into my first shop when I was 16.
But you were 14 doing your first tattoo?
Yeah.
And how did you pick up the skill, or how did you?
You know, we had like a homie that was like tattooing all of us on Sundays and with homemade machines and stuff, and I was like, "Oh, I like to draw." And he's like, "You should tattoo me," and I did, and I loved it. And I think at first my dad was like, "Wow, like you did this tattoo, it's all these dots making an image." But then when I started getting them, he was kind of like, "Oh, like
not so cool anymore."
Yeah, you know, like, you know, they weren't very Americanized, so to them it was like this equals drugs or, you know, just a very bad lifestyle, you know, and they didn't really understand the art aspect of it, which a lot of people didn't until, like, you know, the success of TV shows that kind of opened a lot of people's minds to it.